to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. We want to send a special shout out to every single person that has subscribed to this channel. We do have our main channel, Dr. Mumbi Show. We stopped doing programming when Babylon fell, beloveds, because that was specifically a news channel. So we will definitely be relaunching it in a future, not too distant future, but those are definitely stories for other days. Thanks to everyone that supports us on Patreon as well. We appreciate, love you so much for that support and just for helping us to create that spiritual community on there. Now, a lot of people ask me this question and, what is this Babylon that you speak of? I thought it was pretty straightforward, but I thought maybe I'd do a show on it. For me, when I speak of Babylon, I'm speaking in code, because there's certain nations and states you can't mention every single time. Otherwise, you will get flagged and you will get spiritual and psychic attacks if you don't already get them. So when I say Babylon, I'm hoping you understand and understand that it is the global system that we find ourselves in. But maybe I'll go deeper, and kind of get into it. And the reason I'm even discussing this is because I was watching, you should definitely check her out, Priestess Osset, if you're looking for the real deal, high priestesses out there. I think high priestess was said. Anyway, I was watching her show the other day, and she did a show on why spiritualists aren't out here saving the world, which I found really deep. And she talked about Babylon. And so I decided, maybe it is something that people aren't very clear on. So for me, if we were to get really, really deep into it, Babylon is a spirit that invaded this earth, and it has a male, patriarchal kind of vibe to it. And the spirit has manifested it. I mean, its main seat is in Rome, beloveds. It is being run by a global Jesuit organization. But it has manifested itself in many, many ways to create this new world order. It's always been about what we're witnessing today, total takeover of this solar melanated planet. So Babylon, when we think about it as a spirit, and for me, of course, I'm always talking about, Eden, Zion, Al-Kabul, Africa, whatever you want to call it. This spirit invaded Africa. And I know we're the global melanated planet, but the spirit invaded Africa through the missionaries. That's how it first came and put itself here. And the missionaries came hand in hand with the secret societies, where they started doing rituals. This whole world is about the occult and magic, beloveds. And if you're not on that, if you don't believe that is real, then you really are missing the whole point about what is really happening, in this reality. And so it was invaded into us, and kind of the way they spread this spirit into our people was through this religious psychosis, which was first beaten into us. And, and there's been so much that's been done to manipulate us into that. Erasing our history, making it, using our sacred text so that there's a resonation within us, etc., etc. But it first came as a spirit, beloveds, and then it came with the spirit of religion and the secret societies, and they set up and they started to do their rituals, etc., etc. It's always been male dominant. It's always been a predominantly masculine, vibration, which is, okay, I could get deeper into that, but let me leave that there. So once it had penetrated through the missionaries, because the missionaries came way before the other parts of its pillar. It was like that was the first invasion. And I've done how Christianity was actually a military invasion of Africa. Please check out that video. So once the spirit had come, then it started to establish its 7 pillars of control. And, I've done a separate video on this, which I'll release on this platform soon. And those 7 pillars talk about, it created a system of education, which was basically to brainwash the people. It created a system of media information where it would constantly propaganda the people, give the people the message they wanted to hear, steer the people in a certain way. It created activities, activities that would catch people, entertainment that would capture people and contain them as their energy was harvested. Because when we think about it being a spirit, beloveds, and we remember that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, then we have to know that what does this spirit want? Why would this spirit even come to this world? What's the whole point? To control a few humans? No, there's a harvesting going on, beloveds, and it's been going on for ages. Of our energy, of our emotions, our lowest level emotions, of fear, of anxiety, of worry, and just those very animalistic. There's a harvesting of our energy. Just the way they'll create dams and the geothermal and just the way they harvest electricity, beloveds, is literally how we're being harvested. And there's also been a harvesting of our natural resources. But when we think about it, so the spirit came here to gain spiritual energy from us. That's why, when you hear people like Bob Marley, the Babylon system is, a vampire. It's a vampiristic spirit. People like Ralph Smart call it an inorganic being, inorganic ones. Because that spirit is in them, but they don't have the soul, and the soul is like what connects you to nature. So Babylon started as a spirit, and now that spirit was here to, harvest our energy literally forever by making us a prison planet. And then now the spirit took on, as I said, entertainment, education, to start already culturing the children into their story, their life, because it's a takeover. It's been a takeover. Then they created governments, they created states. And these are not physical states, they are mental states, nation states. And then through those states, they created governments that govern the mental of that state and make sure that people literally remain in those concentration camps. So Babylon is everywhere where you see the constructions of it. That's why when I say get out of Babylon, I'm talking about leave the cities, because that's where Babylon's stronghold is the strongest. I always recommend coming to Africa, and people always like, oh, no, Africa is controlled by the Chinese. Have you been to Africa? For the people who are saying that, I haven't seen a Chinaman in I don't know how long. So there's no Chinese, but you guys are almost giving the Chinese power by saying that. You give away your power so easily, and that's why it's so easy for outer space beings to come and just harvest your energy just like that and keep you on this hamster wheel. And it was this thing about, you see, one of the ways they got us is because we were self-sufficient beings within ourselves. So when they pulled education from us learning from nature and naturally just intuitively coming into, our awareness with our spiritual team and the spiritual world, when they pulled us out of, self-healing and created, first of all, created diseases, but also created these hospitals and health centers and doctors and nurses, and they created this entire culture for that. All of this pulled us out of ourselves, which is a massive form of disempowerment, because now, at such a time as this, when they're really getting ready to close in on everyone, many find themselves to be handicapped. They don't know how to heal themselves. They don't know how to educate themselves or their children. They don't even know what to educate themselves or their children. They don't even know how to keep themselves entertained. They don't know how to use their energy to have fun and create something that is good for, that is worthwhile for them. What happened to when we used to just play in nature and jump off waterfalls and swim in rivers and, climb mountains? What happened to those times, beloveds? There was so much fun in that. And it wasn't just that, there was so much that uh, people used to see because their first eye was open. So now the Babylon system, it has always been, it has always been centered in Rome. But as I said, there's two warring factions. I always say there's a secret society war going on, which is why, the Queen of England and her bloodline, who are run by others. Anyway, let me not get into that. That's why they created their own Anglican church and tried to kind of separate themselves from, the seat of power to create a second seat of power. And England is the divided states, is Israel. So these are the ones who it all started. It's all the same spirit. But that spirit has divided itself and is controlling the world through rituals that many don't see. And the Bible is a book of rituals, beloveds, hidden in plain sight. And it's a book that if you are not reading in spirit and in truth, can just, mash you up, cast a spell on your own damn self. And so now, when Babylon was seeded as a spirit, beloveds, that's why I call it a religious psychosis. And it was all, and the entire system is about governing the mental. They created an economic system so that you could not barter and trade anymore. You now had to literally buy their, use their paper. So it totally removed us from our system. And Babylon has created this matrix that is extremely addictive. And there was an actual Babylon, yes, but for me, it's a spirit that invaded and has manifested, in economics, entertainment, media. These are like their pillars. This is how they control people. These are like their gates. Can I say that? Social order and healthcare. I don't know if I mentioned the government. But there are seven pillars of the Babylon system. And so that spirit has spread everywhere. But the biggest strongholds is number one, religion, and number two, politics. And politics bows to the religious order. The occult order is the top that everyone follows and has to do rituals to. And so the Babylon system is everywhere. And this is what I was saying. But it's not as much in Africa, beloveds, because Africa is vast and there are many parts that are untouched. And you'll only see that when you come to the continent and you get in your car and you drive around and you drive even from one point to another. You'll see, acres and acres. You'll go for hours and hours of untouched land, beloveds. Because as I told you, Africa is much vaster than they say. But we're in the mental Babylon system. And so Babylon has many manifestations right now. It's not even just about the Mzungus oppressing the Africans, because the Babylon system has even invaded our own leadership for their own selfish gains. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Welcome back, beloveds, to Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki, answering one of the questions that I get asked so much. What is this Babylon that I speak of? What is the Babylon system? And, I've explained a lot about it, and I think it's important for us to understand that it's whenever we talk, beloveds, let's not think physically. Let's think spiritually. Let's look at things from a spiritual and mental perspective, because that is what is ruling and reigning right now. And so when I say get out of Babylon, it's about not only getting out of Babylon's thinking and the kind of matrix that they've created or patrix that they've created, because as I said, it's a masculine, spirit that kind of invaded this feminine planet. But it's to not only get out of the Babylon, what they've created, the patrix, the world that they've told you is real, but it's also to get out of their system, which means get out of their schools, their churches, their, economic system as much as possible. Everything, like to separate yourself as much as possible in your situation from the Babylon system. That also means, because now they've created their system, Now they're coming to enforce it. You know, many think the New World Order is starting now. No, it started back in the day, beloveds. Way back. This is a plan, you know, and they've always told us that these, you know, nefarious, diabolical beings are always planning 50 and 100 years ahead. So when they're telling you of a 2030, they've already tried to think beyond, although the 2030s where they're gonna, that's like their final battle. They've been preparing for this. And they know that the odds are stacked against them winning, which is why they make us feel like it's such a, like the odds are stacked against us. It doesn't happen like that. They are now putting in the final pieces of their empire. And so, in order to escape that and be free of that, then you have to leave the cities. You have to leave the, you know, anything and go to as rural a place as possible, which means now getting back into learning how to self sustain yourself, feed yourself, clothe yourself, heal yourself. This is what is required of us in this new season, beloveds. But Babylon is a spirit that has now manifested as the beast, as the dragon. The divided states, the divided kingdom is where their stronghold was. But if you even follow the whole Illuminati thing, they were now trying to transition to China. But have you noticed how the whole China vibe has gone quiet? I'd love to hear, what do you hear when I say Babylon? But remember, when I talk about it on this show, it's code. I can't keep mentioning the you know, the people that you should know that I'm talking about. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, maybe this channel is not for you. Until next time, tuko pamoja.